What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Classic Octane. I am Taylor. So today we are back on the R65 project. I know a lot of you guys are very desperate for content on this build. I am happy to say that my custom one-off seat is on the way. It should be here in the next couple of days, as well as a few other parts that I've been working on sourcing are on the way as well, which will allow us to make a ton of progress on this bike kind of throughout the rest of this month. So you will be seeing quite a bit more content. I am desperate to get this bike down the road. I apologize for it taking forever. I've literally had this bike for like over a year, but we should really be making some headway here in the very near future. So today is going to be mostly about tires. The tires came in, I'm still waiting for my tubes. So we're gonna get those swapped, and then I will probably go up in the attic and see what options I have for handlebars, see if anything is gonna look good on this bike that I already have. If not, I will have to place an order for some bars, but let's start with pulling these wheels off. BMWs are super simple to pull the back wheel off. I'm just going to loosen up our brake, make sure that's not holding on anything. Then I just have to undo the 22mm nut on this side, on the axle. Just like that. And there is like a little spacer kind of washer over here we want to keep track of. Then we can go around and loosen the pinch bolts, or sorry, pinch bolt singular over here. Just need to loosen it. Stick a little screwdriver in our axle. Pull that out. And we should be able to just kind of pull it this direction. And that's it. It doesn't get much simpler than that. Basically the same operation up here in the front. I already have the brake caliper out of the way. Gonna undo the axle nut, undo the pinch bolts on each side, pull the axle out that side over there, and then we'll be able to just lift the kind of forks in the frame and everything right off the wheel, and we'll be able to pull some tires off. Both wheels are off. Now we are on to, I would say, probably my least favorite job of building bikes. Just really don't enjoy doing tires. Which, now that I'm getting into drifting in the Corvette, it makes even more sense for me to invest in a tire machine. Because motorcycle tires, I don't enjoy doing them, but I can do them by hand. Car tires, I have to pay for, so if we're burning through a bunch of tires drifting, that would add a pretty big expense if I had to pay someone to mount the tires every time. So keep my eye out on a good deal for a tire machine. And just like that, with only a mild amount of huffing and puffing, as well as a few curse words, the old dry rotted tires are off. If you're not familiar, the older the tire, the harder the rubber, which makes it more difficult to remove, but happy to report we got them off without any damage. So these are my new tires I'm gonna run. These are the Shinko 241s. It's like a nice vintage style knobby, not quite as aggressive as the Continentals I have on the KZ750, but still a nice little kind of vintage, aggressive off-road kind of lug pattern, but that still performs pretty well on the street. We're going with a 3.5 18 for the front and a 4 18 for the rear. So now we're just waiting for my tubes to come in. As soon as those get here, we'll just reverse this process and get them mounted up. The tubes showed up, so we're ready to put all this back together. I'm not going to show you guys step by step because I've done that in the past. But one quick tip and reminder, when you are going to seat the final bead of the tire back onto the rim, make sure you don't go too crazy and kind of move your tire iron too far over. It's really easy to pinch tubes on these motorcycle tires. I've done it countless times. So just use a lot of whatever lubrication you want. Just go nice and slow. Ideally, not prying this past about 90 degrees. And if you go slow enough and kind of put it in the right position, it should all kind of slip into place, especially with new fresh tires that are nice and pliable. So I'm gonna go ahead and get both of these put on, and then we'll see how they look on the bike. Tires are all mounted up and I love them. I think these are legitimately my favorite motorcycle tires. I just dig the vintage off-road kind of flat track vibe. Happy to report we also have plenty of clearance. So I was a little bit worried about the clearance there. And then also I haven't fully decided on what style front fender we're gonna run. I may end up running a high fender. But if I do decide to run the factory fender, this brace also clears as well. So we have plenty of room for both of those. So let me know what you guys think about that. What I'm gonna move on to now is I'm gonna pull these handlebars out, mainly because I wanna remove this little riser. And I wanna see if any of the handlebars I have kind of in stock are going to be kind of the right proportions that I want. If not, we can measure and kind of order up a set that's gonna match the look we're going for. So let's go ahead and get these out of the way. So these Pro Taper bars are as close as I think I have to what I'm looking for. I'm just not sure if the rise is going to be high enough. I do like the kind of brace and everything in the middle. It goes on theme with our kind of off-road look we're going for. So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of roughly throw these in place. I do need to put the tank back on as well so that I can get a full visual kind of look at everything and see if the proportions are looking right, and you know, just kind of check it as we go. As I mentioned in a previous video, I'm just designing this bike on the fly. I don't really have a whole heck of a lot of a plan. I just have some parts laying around and I have like a general vibe that I'm going for, but other than that, we're winging it. Here's a look at everything with the tank in place, as well as a frame hoop kind of temporarily put on here. So if you remember from a previous video, I decided that a 19-inch seat I think would be the perfect size for this bike. So I talked to my buddy Chris, who owns Tough Side Seats, which I run on like 95% of my bikes. And he made me a custom seat exactly to the proportions that I wanted, and it will be here tomorrow. So that will be in this video for you guys. I have to wait a day, but it'll be, you know, probably 30 seconds from now when you guys see it. But overall, I'm really digging the proportions of this bike so far. So a couple of things to keep in mind. With the engine in the bike, that will of course compress our front springs a little bit. And we have not figured out our rear shocks or anything yet either. So basically what I'm saying is don't pay attention to the ride height or the rake or any of that stuff just yet. We're just looking at proportions to handlebar height, kind of length of overall frame hoop, you know, positioning of the tank, just kind of overall big picture. I think it's looking really good. I'm really excited about it. So right now it's a waiting game for me until the seat gets here. It'll be a couple of seconds for you guys. So I'll see you tomorrow when that thing comes in. The seat has arrived. I'm gonna do an unboxing so you guys will see it for the first time, the same time I do. Some of you guys, as soon as you see this seat, will understand the look I'm going for. And some of you are gonna think that I'm crazy. You ready? Oh yeah. Uh-huh. That's right. I think this is called Flame Red. And I love it. Rip this plastic off. Now that is a statement right there. But it's pretty sick. Let's see how this thing looks on the bike. So it's not going to sit exactly where it's supposed to because my clamp that's holding our gas tank in place is kind of protruding up a little bit. So it's going to sit a little bit higher than it really will, but it'll give us the overall feel of what we're going for. Something just like that. So again, the front of the seat will probably be about an inch, maybe a little bit more than an inch lower than it is now. That's gonna be sick. I love the length. I went with a little bit of an upsweep on the back so that I can run a kind of shorty rear fender, you know, something that's maybe, I don't know, 6 or so inches long, just to give us a little bit of a rear fender. That's gonna be sick. I love the overall length. It's just past the axle, which is exactly what I was looking for. That 19 inches is working out perfect. So this is where I can get a little more detail on my overall theme that I'm going for. So if you're not familiar with early BMWs, in the mid 80s they came out with a model called the R80 GS, and it's kind of the first Paris-Dakar edition BMW off-road. It introduced the GS line for BMW, and it's kind of widely known as one of the most sought after vintage adventure off-road kind of bikes. They are extremely expensive and quite rare. I have not found one that's in bad enough condition for me to be able to afford it, but it is in a similar kind of category as my R100 GS Paris-Dakar bike that I have just behind me. So that bike, I'll throw a picture of one on the screen if you're not familiar what it looks like. They came factory with bright red seats. So that's why I wanted to go with bright red on this. They also came with white gas tanks. So this is me announcing that I am going to be painting this gas tank white because I want this bike to kind of pay homage to a R80 GS, but I don't want to make like a clone. I'm not trying to like say that this bike is an R80 GS by any means. I just want it to have that kind of vibe, that kind of feel, but with my own classic octane kind of twist on it. So it's going to be a vintage Scrambler, but with, you know, hints of R80 GS mixed in, and then the rest is going to be my own kind of you know, twist and flavor. So that's going to be the overall theme for this bike. So I hope you guys are stoked to see that. Again, I am not trying to make a clone of that bike. I'm just trying to make my own version of it. Well, that's what I'm going to call it for this week's video, guys. I hope you kind of understand what I was talking about with the overall theme of this bike. It'll start to make more and more sense as we continue to build it, start to get rid of some of this blue, start to finalize some positions of things. So now that our seat is here, that was kind of the main component I was still waiting for before we could really start the custom fabrication on this bike. So that's going to be in the next video, is we're going to start to make our custom subframe that will exactly match the bottom of this seat. We can make our tank mounts to actually get this tank kind of in position for good. Then we need to move on to the big unknown that's still remaining, and that's going to be our rear suspension. So I'm toying around with a couple of different ideas. I kind of want to try something that's really unique and not, you know, seen on every single bike. You know, we could just go with our traditional shock location, you know, something like this with an extended shock and be done, but I kind of want to try something a little bit funky. If it works out or not is kind of yet to be seen. So that'll be coming up in a future episode. I also recently secured a big modification for our engine that is going to be shipped in here in the next week or two as well. It's going to give us some more power and make this thing even more unique. So tons of custom stuff coming very soon. We are finally to the point of being able to dedicate some time to this bike. I know a lot of you guys have been very desperate for R65 videos, and I promise more are on the way very soon. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one.